What would you do if the people closest to you treated your kindness like a weakness and your home like a doormat? I'm Nicole. I'm 31. Single. No kids. I live in a modest 3-bedroom house my dad left me when he passed, and I used to think that made me lucky. Not rich. Just stable. But here's the thing no one tells you: being stable makes you a target. Especially when your own family believes they're entitled to the life you built or inherited while blaming you for what they lost. You probably think I'm exaggerating. That family can't possibly turn that fast. But I need you to hear this. Because I kept quiet for 2 years. I folded their laundry. I smiled through the disrespect. I cleaned the messes they made in the house, in my bank account, and in my self-worth. And for what? So they could mock me at my own Thanksgiving table. Let me take you back. 2 years ago, my older sister Jenna showed up with a duffel bag and her 18-year-old daughter, Kaylee. Jenna had just broken up with a guy she thought she'd marry. Lost her job. Got evicted. It was one of those crash and burn months life throws at you. She called me crying. I told her to come stay, just until she could get back on her feet. And yeah, I charged her $400 a month. Not because I needed the money, but because I thought it would preserve some dignity. Mutual respect. You know? She agreed. Kaylee didn't say much. Just wore her AirPods and rolled her eyes. That was the beginning. At first I kept telling myself it was temporary. That I could absorb the chaos. That we were healing together. I mean, she's my sister. And isn't that what you're supposed to do for family? Only here's the problem: I kept treating them like guests. And they started acting like squatters. Jenna's rent slipped 1 month. Then 2. She said she was applying for better jobs, but she never left the couch. Her resume lived in a Google Doc she never opened. Kaylee used my car without asking. Got a parking ticket. Laughed about it. Still, I kept making dinner. Cleaning up after them. Fixing things when they broke. I paid for the utilities, the food, the Wi-Fi. The only thing they contributed was silence, unless they needed something. Or wanted to remind me how easy I had it. Want to know the last straw? Thanksgiving. I cooked everything. From scratch. Turkey. Stuffing. Pie. Bought the groceries. Cleaned the guest bathroom. Folded the cloth napkins. Jenna invited her new boyfriend, didn't even tell me. Kaylee scrolled TikTok through the entire dinner prep. And then, somewhere between the mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce, Jenna looked at me and said, "Must be nice to play house and daddy's gift while other people work their whole lives and get nowhere." I blinked. Thought maybe I misheard her. Then Kaylee piled on. "You act like you're better than us just because your bills are paid." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. I said, "You're living in my house. Rent-free." Jenna leaned forward, swirled her wine, and said, "Oh please. If we weren't here, you'd be a lonely freak talking to your cat." And I just went still. Not angry. Not hurt. Just empty. Like someone popped the balloon I'd been floating in for 2 years, pretending it was a home. Later that night, I went into my room. Locked the door. Opened my drawer. Pulled out every receipt. Every ignored Venmo request. Every "I'll pay you next week" text she never followed through on. It wasn't the money that broke me. It was the shame. Shame for letting it go on so long. Shame for letting them define me. Would you still call it family if they made you feel like a burden in your own home? I stayed up until 2 a.m. printing out a lease agreement template. Googling local eviction laws. Rereading every message she ignored, every boundary she bulldozed. And then I did something I'd never done before. I gave my sister a deadline. I placed the lease agreement on the kitchen counter, next to the pie they didn't touch and the wineglass she left half full. The edge of the paper curled from heat. But my name on the signature line was bold. Unshaking. I don't know what you would have done. But that night, I chose peace over guilt. The lease was dated December 1st. Rent, $1,400. The next morning they were gone. But the Wi-Fi was unplugged. And a TikTok from Kaylee went viral. "Getting kicked out for breathing, #toxicfamily." And that's when I knew this wasn't over. There's a moment, after you stand up for yourself, when you think the hard part is over. But it's not. The hard part is what happens next. The silence. The games. The slow erosion of whatever dignity you were trying to preserve. After I gave Jenna the lease notice, I didn't expect a thank you. But I also didn't expect open warfare. She didn't respond to my text. Not at first. Kaylee posted her little, toxic family, video, some sad music, a half-second clip of the lease agreement, and a dramatic sigh like she was being shipped off to war. At first it got 3 likes. Then 500. Then thousands. People in the comments called me the abuser. The narcissist. One person wrote, "It's always the single childless aunt who turns bitter." And yeah, I read every comment. You ever feel like you're defending yourself in a courtroom where the jury only saw one screenshot? Jenna finally broke the silence 2 days later. Not with an apology. Not even with a question. Just one line. Wow. You really think money makes you better than us? Not a denial. Not even anger. Just resentment, packaged like victimhood. I didn't answer. I was too busy making backup copies of every document. Screenshotting every misread message. Just in case. Because something in me, something buried deep under the nice girl training finally lit up. Not rage. Not revenge. Just clarity. I started documenting everything. The dishes left in the sink. The accidental Wi-Fi disconnects. The groceries they ate and never replaced. It's amazing what you notice when you stop excusing people. I saw the way Kaylee would leave used makeup wipes on the stairs. How Jenna left water rings on the coffee table I just refinished. I found my sweater, the one my dad gave me, crumpled in the garage next to a bag of dog food they weren't even using. They didn't have a dog. What if the real disrespect isn't what people say, but what they quietly ruin just because they can? Still, I tried to hold the line. I made a new grocery system, separate shelves. I locked the garage. I disabled the DoorDash account we shared. I heard Jenna call me a control freak on the phone to someone. Meanwhile, she hadn't applied to a single job in weeks. I know, I checked the browser history. I left the lease papers on the counter. Clean. Crisp. Untouched. Every morning, I checked to see if they'd signed. Every night, they were still blank. Then one Thursday, I opened the fridge to find my meal prep gone. All 6 containers. I asked Jenna, hey, did you see the food I made for work this week? She said, relax. We're family. I stood there, holding the empty glass container. And it hit me she didn't just eat my food. She wanted me to know she ate it. There was a single spoon left in the sink, covered in marinara, on top of one of my unopened eviction notices from the county. That weekend my aunt called me. Said Jenna was hurting. Said I needed to show grace. Said, you've always been the responsible one. That line stuck. Like being punished for being stable. I said, so I should just pay for peace? She didn't answer. You ever feel like your whole family decided you were the villain just because you had boundaries? The final straw wasn't loud. It didn't happen at dinner. It was 2 a.m. I heard a noise. Walked into the hallway. Kaylee was in my office. My locked office. She had pried the lock open with a fork. Said she needed to borrow my webcam. The same webcam I use for work. The same office that held every document about the house. I asked her to leave the room. She muttered something under her breath. I didn't even ask what. I just went to Home Depot the next day and bought new locks. Then I did something else. I filed a formal notice to vacate. 30 days. Legal. Binding. I slid the form under Jenna's door. She didn't come out. But that night, I found a note taped to my mirror. It wasn't signed. Just scrawled in red Sharpie. You'll die alone in this house. And you'll deserve it. Maybe I should have ignored it. Maybe I should have laughed. But tell me, how do you sleep in a house where the people you feed are already preparing your obituary? The note was taped over the spot on the mirror where I keep a photo of my dad. Her handwriting crossed right through his face. The next morning, I found the furnace switched off. In January. And the garage door wide open. With my cat missing. I didn't cry when I found the garage door open. I didn't scream when I realized the furnace was off and the thermostat had been set to 50. I just stood there in the doorway. Barefoot. Shivering. Calling for my cat like it would undo something. His name is Beans. My dad named him before he passed. Said he's small, loud, and always underfoot, like someone I used to know. Beans never went outside. He was terrified of the wind. He used to hide in the laundry basket when Jenna vacuumed. So yeah, I knew. He didn't just run away. He was let out. You ever realize someone hurt you not to survive, but just to watch you squirm? I called out for him until my voice cracked. Searched under hedges. Behind the neighbor's shed. Shook the treat bag until my fingers went numb. Kaylee came downstairs around 11 a.m., looked right past me. Said, he's just a cat. You'll live. Then she laughed. I think that was the moment something broke. Not my heart. That had already gone soft months ago. It was the illusion that I could reason with people like this. That kindness could convert them. I went upstairs. Locked the bedroom door. Sat on the floor in my pajamas and made a list. Lock replacement, $137. Legal eviction form, $74. Groceries for Thanksgiving, $193. Parking ticket from my car, $65. Therapy session since Jenna moved in, $6. And then I wrote, peace priceless, but apparently not free. The next day I posted in 3 Facebook groups. Asked if anyone had a spare room Jenna and Kaylee could rent. I didn't name them. Just described the situation. One woman messaged me. Is this about that girl who posted a TikTok crying in a blanket? 'Cause her followers are trashing you in our local group. That's when I found it. The second video. Kaylee filmed herself standing outside my house, holding the eviction notice, sobbing on command. The caption read, "When your own blood turns your childhood home into a prison #homeless #family betrayal." It had 48,000 likes. People were sending her donations. Someone called me the landlord demon. Said I deserved to have my house taken away. She was monetizing the victimhood. Off my mortgage-free home. Off my grief. Off my silence. So I broke it. I stitched her TikTok with a video of my own. I didn't say her name. Didn't raise my voice. I just showed the lease agreement. The unpaid rent receipts. A photo of the wine glass Jenna shattered and never cleaned up. Then I turned the camera to the corner of the room, where my dad's urn sat, and said, "This house isn't a prison. It's the only peace I've had since burying my father. And you're not entitled to someone else's grief shelter." That video didn't go viral, but the comments section turned. A few people started asking questions. Screenshots got shared. Context surfaced. Jenna slammed my door that night so hard, the hallway light flickered. She yelled, "Congratulations. You made strangers hate me." I said, "No. You did that." She didn't reply. Just walked past me. Knocked over a plant on the way. Kaylee followed behind, smirking. Like it was a game. Like I had joined their little theater. But refused to read the script. What do you do when people rewrite your life into a story where you're the villain? Just so they don't have to change. I slept with the bedroom door locked that night. Then at 3:12 a.m. I heard a crash. I ran downstairs. My dad's urn had been knocked off the mantel. Ash everywhere. No note. No apology. Just a broken vase. Like his memory was trash. There was a footprint in the ashes. A bare one. Just one. Leading back toward the kitchen. I stood there with a dustpan in my hand, crying without sound. That morning I called my cousin Owen. He's a contractor. Used to be a bit of a screw-up, but he'd gotten sober a few years back. Told him what happened. Told him I needed every door in this house changed. Every lock. He didn't ask why. He just said, "I'll be there in an hour." And he was. He installed new deadbolts. Keypad entries. Reinforced the garage. Then he looked at me and said, "You don't owe them an explanation. Just a deadline." So I made one. 10 days. I printed the final notice and left it on their bedroom doors. No threats. No drama. Just facts. That same night, someone posted another TikTok. But this one wasn't from Kaylee. It was a screen recording of a group chat. Jenna's name visible. They were laughing. Planning. Saying I'd cave if they mess with a few more of my things. Let's see how she handles no power next week. Or maybe water damage smirking face. The caption. Plotting with your fam to ruin your cousin's house. Classy grinning face with sweat. You probably think I should have called the cops right then. Maybe I should have. But when it's your own blood, you hesitate. You hope the monster's wearing a mask. The last line in the group chat was from Kaylee. She thinks she's the hero. But heroes die alone. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of water. And my upstairs bathroom floor was flooding. People talk about starting over like it's some big clean break. Like you just wake up one day and flip a switch. But that's not what it feels like. It feels like standing in 3 inches of freezing water in your upstairs hallway at 6:12 a.m., staring at a pipe that didn't just burst, it was unscrewed. Deliberately. I saw the wrench. Left next to the sink. Still damp. I checked the bathroom door. There was no damage. No forced entry. Which meant only one thing. They did it from the inside. Jenna and Kaylee were still asleep when I found it. Or pretending to be. I didn't check. I called Owen again. I couldn't even speak at first. Just stood there with the phone pressed to my chest, trying not to sob. He showed up in 40 minutes. Didn't ask a single question. Just started draining, drying, ripping up the warped floorboards. The hallway looked like a crime scene. Wet footprints, splintered trim. The air thick with mildew and morning light. I sat on the stairs with a mug of tea I didn't drink, listening to the wet suck of the shop vac. There was a single paper towel floating in the water. One word written in smeared Sharpie ink. Sorry. Not taped. Not placed. Just dropped. Like garbage. I didn't take a picture. I just stared at it until it sank. You ever get an apology so insulting it makes you angrier than the betrayal? I filed a police report that afternoon. Not because I thought they'd arrest anyone, but because I needed a record. A paper trail. That night I walked in the front door and found Kaylee sitting on the couch. Watching TV. Wearing my sweatshirt. Eating from my takeout container. She looked up and smiled. Hope the damage isn't too expensive, she said. I walked straight to the breaker box and cut power to the living room. No warning. No words. She screamed like I'd set the couch on fire. Jenna came down 5 minutes later, red-faced and snarling. I can't believe you're doing this. You're destroying this family. I said, you already did. And I meant it. They weren't family anymore. They were hostile tenants waiting for a sheriff's notice. They moved out 3 days before the final eviction deadline. No goodbye. No apology. Just slammed doors and the sound of my driveway cracking under the weight of their U-Haul. I waited until they were gone. Then I walked through the house room by room. There were cigarette burns on the windowsill, nail polish in the carpet, holes punched in the back of the closet door. The worst was Kaylee's room. They carved words into the drywall. One word. Over and over. Lonely. Like it was supposed to shame me. But all it did was confirm what I already knew. They didn't just resent me. They enjoyed hurting me. Would you still call it trauma if it ends with relief? Or is that just survival? For the next few weeks, the house was too quiet. Not peaceful. Not safe. Just quiet in a way that makes you flinch. Every little creak felt like a warning. Every notification on my phone made my heart stutter. People still DM'd me because of the videos. Some called me cruel. Others thanked me for speaking up. A few sent links to therapists. My aunt emailed me a long guilt letter. Said Jenna was staying with her now. Said, no one's perfect. Said I was being dramatic. I didn't reply. I changed the locks again. I replaced the carpet. I painted over the word lonely like it had never been carved there in the first place. I bought a new set of house keys. Just 2. One for me. One for the drawer. No copies. No spares. Then I cleaned the spare bedroom. Refolded the guest sheets. Opened the window. I stood there with the sun on my face, listening to nothing. No TikTok echo. No passive-aggressive sighs. Just birds and air and space. I made myself a sandwich. Sat in my dad's chair. Ate slowly. No one interrupted me. No one stole the last pickle. And I didn't cry. I know that doesn't sound like a victory, but after months of walking on broken eggshells, silence is a kind of celebration. The next day, I took the ashes from the broken urn and buried them in the backyard garden. I didn't tell anyone. I just whispered, "It's safe now, Dad." The following Monday, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a screenshot of my original video and a printed note that said, "You forgot who watched you first." I stared at the note for a long time. "You forgot who watched you first." Typed in bold serif font. No handwriting. No signature. Just that one line. I turned it over. Nothing. Checked the envelope again. Blank. But the message was clear. Someone wanted me to feel watched. Like my piece was rented, not owned. Like the locks didn't matter. It felt exactly like Kaylee's kind of move. Dramatic, indirect, and weirdly theatrical. So I went upstairs and checked every outlet. Every light socket. Every corner of my bedroom. No hidden cameras. No signs of forced entry. Just me. And the creeping doubt that maybe they weren't done. You ever feel safe, but only because no one's chosen to ruin you that day? 2 days later, another package came. No return address. Inside was my own scarf. The gray one. The one Beans used to sleep on. It smelled like gasoline. I called Owen. Told him everything. He showed up with a motion sensor camera kit and stayed until everyone was installed. Front porch. Hallway. Back door. Even the mailbox. Then he looked at me and said, "If they come back, you call me first. Not the cops." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't want police. I wanted proof. I wanted something to hold in my hands when they tried to rewrite the story again. Because I knew what was coming next. The absurd return. It happened 1 week later. I came home from a grocery run, arms full of paper bags, and saw a figure sitting on the porch swing. Leg crossed. Sunglasses on. Cup of my old chipped coffee mug in hand. Jenna. I didn't move. Just stood there at the bottom of the porch steps like the air had frozen between us. She smiled like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't unleashed a storm in my home and soaked in the wreckage. "Hi," she said, soft. Almost gentle. I thought I'd stop by. I know things got messy. Messy? That's what she called it. Flooding my hallway. Scratching the walls. Setting strangers on me online. Messy. I didn't speak. I just walked past her, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Left it open. She followed. Like it was normal. She looked around and smiled. "Place looks good. You finally painted." I stood by the kitchen island. Put down my groceries. One by one. Deliberate. Then I looked at her. "What do you want, Jenna?" She sighed. Dramatic. Theatrical, like always. "I've just been thinking about us. About family. And Kaylee's not in a good place. I wondered if..." "No." She blinked. You don't even know what I was going to ask. I said it again. No. Because I did know. She wanted help. A second chance. A third. A fourth. A reset. She wanted to hand me her broken pieces and let me glue them together in a house I'd finally repaired. She stepped closer. Nicole, I'm your sister. I miss you. I didn't move. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, you miss the version of me who didn't say no. That version doesn't live here anymore. Her mouth opened, probably with some speech about forgiveness. But I wasn't interested in hearing it. I walked to the front door. Held it open. Please leave, I said. Calm. She hesitated. You'd really slam the door on your own blood? I tilted my head. You didn't think twice when you slammed it on my grief. What if family isn't who raised you but who respects you when you say no? She left. Quietly. I watched her walk down the steps. But I didn't feel relief. I felt cold. Because I knew that wasn't the end. That people like Jinnah don't just fade. They wait. They plot. They linger. That night, I found the same coffee mug she drank from on the porch swing, only now it was on my nightstand. Clean. Empty. But still warm. She hadn't just come to talk. She'd come inside. Upstairs. And left a message. If someone showed up in your home, uninvited, after everything they'd done, would you give them one more chance? Or would you finally believe they never came to heal, just to haunt? Inside the mug was a single sugar cube. I hadn't bought sugar cubes in years. My dad used to use them in his coffee. Only he and Jinnah ever did. The next morning, I checked the footage from the cameras Owen installed. The porch cam was gone. Cleanly unscrewed. And the hallway cam? Frozen. At 3:04 a.m. A blurry figure holding a key. Oh, you ever look at footage of your own front door and realize someone's been standing there longer than you've been sleeping? 3:04 a.m. That's the timestamp the hallway camera froze on. Just a shape. Slight. Hooded. Barefoot. Holding something small in their hand. I zoomed in. Blurry. But the way they held it? Familiar. Like it belonged to them. Like it never stopped belonging to them. I checked the backdoor cam next. Also offline. Corrupted. Just static. I didn't call the cops. I didn't even call Owen. I just sat on the stairs. Shaking. And I realized something. This wasn't about shelter. Or money. Or family. This was about control. And the terrifying part? They didn't need to own the house to control it. They just needed me to feel unsafe in it. The next day, someone tagged me in another TikTok. This time it wasn't Kaylee. It was one of her followers recapping the coldest eviction ever. Showing screenshots. Playing dramatic music. They called me a narcissist. An abuser. A gatekeeping sister with a god complex. The video had over 200K likes. A guy in the comments wrote, women like her die alone in mansions full of ghosts. And the worst part? My co-workers saw it. One of them asked in the break room, hey, is that you in that video? Half laughing, half nervous. I said no. Because it wasn't. It was a version of me they'd made up. A cardboard villain in their grief soap opera. You ever want to scream your side of the story but realize no one actually wants to hear it? That weekend my aunt showed up. Without calling. I opened the door and she said, can we talk? I should have said no. But part of me, that quiet, aching piece still shaped like a daughter, still craving permission, stepped aside and let her in. She sat at the kitchen table. Looked around like it was the first time she saw the house. You've done a lot of work, she said. I didn't answer. Then she said it. The line that made something go still in my throat. You've always been the strong one. But don't you think it's time to let it go? Let it go. The lies. The damage. The vandalism. The digital smear campaign. Let it go. Like I was clinging to it for fun. I stared at her and said, did you ever ask what they did? Or just how it made them feel? She blinked. Nicole, I'm just saying they're family. I said exactly. So they should have acted like it. She looked disappointed. Like I'd failed some unspoken moral test. I think you're better than this, she said. Quiet. I stood up. I don't need to be better. I need to be safe. She didn't say goodbye. Just picked up her purse and left. I walked to the hallway closet. Pulled out every old house key I could find. Put them in a bowl. And smashed them. One by one. With a hammer. Metal against ceramic. The sound sharp. Final. It wasn't about locks. It was about sending a message. To myself. They don't get to come back. Not through doors. Not through phones. Not through guilt. That night, I placed the broken key fragments in a glass jar and labeled it. Paid in full. Owen came by the next day. Said he heard someone try the back gate lock but it held. He brought me a new lock. And a garden light. We installed it together. Didn't say much. When we finished, he said, I've seen a lot of messed up families. But yours? They treat your peace like it's stolen. I nodded. Then I told him about the mug, the scarf, the hallway figure. He didn't flinch. Just said, "You want me to stay over for a few nights?" I said no. Not because I didn't want the company, but because I needed to know I could survive the silence. Not just live in it. Is it really healing if the world keeps trying to drag you back into your wounds? So I made new rules. I blocked Kaylee, blocked Jenna, deleted my old social accounts, bought a burner phone for everything important. I left my old number on though, just to see. 3 days later, I got a voicemail. It was Jenna. Her voice tired. Raspy. She said, "I know you hate me, but you're the only one I have left." Pause. A breath. Then, "Kaylee's gone. I think she's really gone." You probably think I felt something when I heard that. Guilt. Pity. Fear. But all I felt was nothing. And that scared me more than her voice. I played the voicemail twice. Then a third time. Then I deleted it. No backup. No record. That night, I stepped outside to lock the gate and found a single rose on the porch swing. Fresh. Pink. Dipped in gasoline. I didn't touch the rose. Didn't smell it. Didn't flinch. Just looked at it for a long time. The petals were soft, still dewy, but the stem glistened with a thin, oily sheen. Gasoline. I didn't need a camera to tell me who left it. I knew the pattern by now. A gift wrapped in threat. A gesture masked as apology. A warning delivered like a love letter. You ever realize someone isn't trying to fix things, they're just proving they can still get in? I went inside. Turned off all the lights. Not because I was scared. Because I wanted them to see me, not run. I stood in the window, lights off, eyes forward. Let them watch me watching. And then I picked up the phone. Not to call Jenna. Not even to call Owen. I called a lawyer. Told her everything. She didn't ask, "Are you sure?" She asked, "How long has this been going on?" I told her about the flooded bathroom. The keys. The voicemail. The rose. She said one sentence that nearly buckled my knees. "This isn't just family conflict. This is harassment." For the first time, someone named it. And I felt seen. Not pitted. Not doubted. Just heard. We filed a restraining order. Jenna would be served within the week. The lawyer asked if I wanted to include Kaylee. I said no. Because Kaylee wasn't the threat anymore. She was the smoke. Jenna was the fire. 3 days later, Jenna posted a selfie with mascara tears. Captioned, "Can't believe she'd do this. My own sister. Blood means nothing anymore, broken heart, #family is family." It racked up comments like always. But this time, people were split. Some said I was heartless. Some said I was protecting myself. Some said there's always two sides. I didn't comment. Didn't reply. I just made my own post. A photo of my garden. No face. No caption. Just green. And calm. And a headstone-shaped rock with the word peace carved into it. I buried the gasoline-dipped rose. Right next to my dad's ashes. But this time, I planted lavender over it. Let beauty swallow the poison. You don't need fists to ruin someone. Just patience. And that's what Jenna had used against me. Every day. Chipping away at my stability until my silence became compliance. But not anymore. I wasn't silent. I was loud in court. I was clear in documents. I was gone from every space she used to access. She tried to email me once after the restraining order hit. Wrote, "I never wanted it to be this way. I just wanted what you had." And that told me everything. She didn't want help. She wanted what I built. But here's the part no one ever says out loud, and maybe you need to hear it too. Survivors look selfish to people who only ever knew them as victims. Would you still choose peace if it meant walking away from everyone who claims to love you? Because that's what I did. And it wasn't graceful. It wasn't clean. It wasn't even brave. But it was necessary. 1 week later, I hung a new picture in my hallway. It was just a quote. Framed simply, "Silence is not strength. Boundaries are." I pass it every morning. And I believe it more every day. Owen still checks in. Sometimes drops off extra lumber from jobs he's doing. He never asks about Jenna. But one day he left a note. "The garden looks good. I'm proud of you." I folded it. Kept it in the same drawer where I once kept eviction notices. Now it holds peace instead of proof. I used to think that family meant loyalty. Now I know, loyalty without respect is just submission. And I'm done submitting. You ever rebuild yourself so thoroughly, you scare the people who first broke you? Good. Let them tremble. I threw out the last extra house key last week. Didn't even recycle it. Just tossed it into the trash.